Hello, everyone. Welcome to our MSQ and webinar series. Today, I'm so excited to have Dr. Guoliang Yu to join me to have such an in-person interview. And actually, today is very rainy in New York City, and Dr. Yu come to our office, and so we are here together. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Echo. Glad to be here.
And also, we had such a special treat to join your ring the bell ceremony. That's what was a wonderful journey and what an exciting moment.
It's truly a very exciting moment for us, and I think that also encouraged a lot of entrepreneurs. You know, it's an interesting journey and very important for what we do.
Yeah. So everyone know that Dr. Yu actually have been an entrepreneur over 30 years, and also have the very deep experience in the academic. And in the past 30 years, he has been co-founded 10 startups in the biotech and the healthcare sector. And then this month, March 8th, actually, one of his company have been successfully IPO, merged with SPAC, and on the March 8th, right?
No, actually, March 30th, we listed, and we just had the bell ringing ceremony 2 days ago.
Yeah, that's very exciting, especially on this challenging time. And so many of the biotech companies have been suffering, have been struggle to be IPO, but you are really not only surviving, but thriving now.
Yeah, no, I think whether it's a good time or bad time, you always have to be ready, prepare the growth of the company. So this is something much anticipated along the growth of the company. So I think whether the capital market is in good shape or it's downturn, I think as an entrepreneur, we always have to be ready to do what you need to do.
Yeah, you always catch the moment. So above all the accomplishment, actually, Dr. Yu is also have a fun life. And so I have been following your the WeChat group page, and so it's about the life and about the love and about the food, and also about how to live younger and longer. Congratulations on your list, also new book launch, Under Age.
Yeah, so one of my passion, of course, is to help people to live younger and live longer using the scientific knowledge that I've gained over the years, both in my academia research period, as well as during the time I building biotech companies. So there's a vast amount of scientific principles, knowledge that we could dumb down into very basics, so that everybody, ordinary people, can understand, not just scientists who are in the life science spaces, but everybody try to understand the principle behind why we stay healthy, why sometimes we get diseases, and how we deal with it. So this is actually my second book about health, and I hope people who read the book can benefit from the principle and the practice, the examples that I cited in the books.
Actually, last night I already finished 2/3 of the book, and I know so many people have been benefited from that. I'm going to experiment, and I've been trying this way for so long. So for today's interview, we will cover 3 parts. I know it's not such a short time. We cannot go to that deep, but we wanted to learn from Dr. Yu. You're the entrepreneur, successfully IPO experience, and also how to physically age younger, 20 years younger than your real age. So let's start with let's move back 30 years ago. Like, so your real age is 37. I remember it's 30 now. So and how did you get into the biotech industry? Because I know you come from the very well-known institution, the you postdoc at Harvard, and also have been like a very well-known in the academic. So why did you decide to be the entrepreneur?
Yeah, so actually it comes to two parts. First, I think in my a younger year, of course, I was very hungry learning, and also try to become a good research so that I could discover something that is fundamentally important. So I got my PhD from University of California, Berkeley, where I worked in the laboratory of Elizabeth Blackburn, who got the Nobel Prize in 2009 for the discovery of telomere and telomerase. So I was part of the team who actually was involved. In fact, I was the one who uncovered the mechanism of how telomerase work. So of course, that's all very exciting. Then I went to Harvard Medical School for my postdoc training, where I was, working in Fred Ausubel's lab, studying the interactions of microbes, basically bacteria with plant organism, and see how in a plant kingdom, the plant is able to defend the invasion of infections of bacteria. And I was the first one discovered disease-resistant gene in plant. So it was all interesting. But then my real passion is, not only discover something interesting, scientifically interesting, but also convert the scientific discovery into a real product that ordinary people can use and benefiting the human health. So I'm always very passionate about so-called the translational part of the work, meaning, how do we apply scientific principles into science? So this is also related to why I, wrote the books. So anyway, instead of stay in academia research institute, I decided to move to the industry so that I can learn how to develop a new drug for the treatment of certain diseases. And as you know, many diseases do not have proper treatment. And we still need to work very, very hard to apply the science into the area so that we can address many of the unmet medical needs. So this is, basically it is my passion. And a lot of people ask me whether, if I have a regret, go to the industry instead of staying in academia. I actually my answer is no, I never regret it, because my life in the industry setting is a lot more fulfilling. It's not about making money, it's really about delivering a useful product to our society, to the mankind. So that's really important to me.
So actually, I think that it can be like we may have another Nobel Prize winner today, but we have another successful entrepreneur. So you have mentioned, actually, you even went to Harvard Medical School back then. I think was probably your age, at that time, for Chinese students come to here to get such as a top one, the school, and your parents probably wanted you really to be the doctor.
Well, actually, my parents, I think most importantly for them is that I'm happy I'm doing what I like to do. So they really never kind of force me to do one way or other. I think they just feel very happy that I'm, doing what I'm doing. So more importantly, I think for myself, to get sort of internal happiness, I love to see some of the product that get into the market. So today, there are at least 2 drugs already being marketed on the market. One is a lupus drug that I actually discovered the target for the drug called the Benlistar. GSK owns the drug. So, when I think about hundreds of thousands of people benefit from using of the medicine for the treatment of lupus, because it's a very devastating and it's a disease, especially in women, very important. So that certainly gives me a lot of satisfaction. And then there's another drug. Actually, I made our team made the initial antibody, and eventually Novartis made it into a drug for treatment of AMD, age-related macular degeneration. So that is also on the market. So both drugs certainly have been helping tremendously, people. Then right now there are probably at least more than a dozen drugs in the clinical trial that all came out from my team, either from the company or from the research collaborations. Many of those are in cancer, in autoimmune diseases. I think all those products, once they reach the market, the benefit to patient is tremendous. So, I get so much happiness out of just thinking, the contribution that we were able to make.
That's very wonderful. So I would like to get a little deep, like the 2 drugs you discovered. So could you please share more, like that was right after your
when I was young, yeah. So
even when you was young.
Yeah. So the first drug, Benlistar, is a lupus drug. I wasn't really the person who discovered the drug, but rather it's the scientific principle of it, because I discovered the target, right? The target is a cytokine that activates B cell, therefore, produce excessive amount of antibodies in our body. So that was, I was still in my probably 20s or early 30s.
Oh, wow.
Still very young. And the science was exciting. Then, of course, like any drug, it takes dozens of years to realize to make the drug get approved, and also take a huge amount of money and very a large team, multiple layers to going through the exercise of clinical trial and get regulatory approval. So Benlistar was certainly a beautiful story where, purely out of basic science, we were able to move all the way to get the drug approved. And interestingly, there are not many other similar science that give you the insight into the mechanism. Therefore, even today, I think there is globally, Benlistar is still the only antibody for that treatment. And now I think China has another drug antibody which utilizing the mechanism that we discovered. So really there's only 2 drugs out there for treating this disease.
Wow, that's really bring the benefit to the patients. So you have been like a discovery part, the drug discovery. What do you see the changes have been happening when you first discovered when you were 20s and now today? What do you see the changes in the industry?
Yeah, so I think that there are several changes that we can see. First of all, the scientific knowledge, especially after the genomics, now we understand a lot more how disease took place and what's the relationship between the disease and the mutations in genes and their expression. So fundamentally, we simply understand more about disease and why we stay healthy. Secondly, the technology has evolved tremendously. So, before being able to identify an antibody, humanize them, produce a lot of it, it's a challenge. Now it's all routine. So I think we get a lot of good technology. And similarly, we always saw the gene therapy, cell therapy, or mRNA as a drug. It's such a long way to go, but because of the COVID, now we have mRNA vaccine. So now we know we can use mRNA as a substance for drug. So that is new technology. Then additionally, when you combine the AI component, artificial intelligence, meaning we are able to study a certain scientific phenomenon or certain disease holistically and combine all the knowledge that we have globally, that will further facilitate the process of drug discovery and make it a lot more efficient. Then lastly, I think with the advancement of the drug discovery and development process globally, both in China, in the US, elsewhere, we're harmonize how the clinical trial is conducted. So we're be able to utilizing the knowledge that generated in different countries and put them together to get more sense of it, and also make it more efficient to work with the regulatory agency to get the drug approved. So all those above really has fundamentally changed how we discover the scientific knowledge. Basically, we normally call them drug targets, right? Then how we go from a drug target all the way to a approved drug.
Yeah, so I think you just mentioned the scientific knowledge, technology, AI, and the advancement of the global clinical trial, actually collaboration. So I would like to, maybe we can go deep with the global clinical trial, because your background as you grew up in China, and then actually probably most of your adulthood is here, or your education, right? Advanced education here, and then your entrepreneurship started here, and then you kind of like a bridge too. So you probably have the faster the insight of how to globally develop the drug.
Yeah, correct. So basically, human, right? So whether we're serving Chinese patients or serving patients in the United States or in Africa, we're all human. So there are a lot of commonalities among people, although there are ethnic differences occasionally. So to understand that is important, and to be able to utilize the clinical knowledge, whether it is the aspect of safety, or whether it's the effectiveness of the drug. I think it's important that we're able to test the drug in a human population, the intended to treat the patient population. So I think if we're able to utilize the advantages in the different regions, for example, China has a very large population, and the hospitals are huge, right? They're very large. So to conduct clinical trial in those hospitals not only allow us to recruit the patient quickly, and you can all have the very same standard in the hospital in terms of treating those patients, caretaking, and everything would be highly standard once you're doing the experiment in the same hospital. And you can do that very fast, right, compared to Western countries or less populated countries. So that means we can use less money, we can do that faster to generate the data that we're looking for. Basically, we're looking for the effectiveness of the drug. We're looking for any potential safety concerns in those patients. Then you say, okay, now from the human studies, now I understand much better what this drug would behave in human. And when we expand into the United States, into Europe, into other countries where it's less populated, but once we apply the same regulatory rules, every study should be more scientific and it should be acceptable by different regulatory agency. So overall, as a drug developer, not only you save money, most importantly, you can facilitate, you can speed up the process so that we can deliver those new novel drug to needed patients. So that's important.
Yeah, that sort of bring my memory. When I started MSQ was 2016. So I tried to bring the innovative drug to China. And I remember first time I brought 5 CEOs from here that tried to start the conversation in China. But that was actually most of the CEOs here from the biotech company, they didn't want to go because China's clinical trial data, they said, how can I believe that? But after China joined the ICH in 2017, and then we read the news every day, the collaboration and the clinical trial in China. So what do you see the trend and also the challenges for the 2 biggest country or the biggest population in the world, China and the US, can advance their drug development?
Yeah, so it's a process, right? Since China joined ICH, there has been very rapid changes or learning process for the clinicians, the PI, to conduct clinical trial, follow the protocol, and really make sure the data has its integrity. So last year or the year before, I read an article actually saying, all the clinical studies in China are at least 80% compliances with ICH. And I think it's probably even better now. So from my understanding, today is the clinical data generated in China by, at least in my case, by our partner, is fully usable in terms of filing with FDA. And more and more companies are trying to combine the China data with the US data and try to apply, FDA to try to get FDA approved. Yeah. Yes. So the huge program and progresses, and also I think it has to do with many people like us. We were trained in the US. Actually, 2/3 of my life was living in the US. So, and many people like me, we go to China and try to take advantage of the system. I mentioned about the population of the patient and also the speed of things being done. So it's a true advantage of that. I think there's a very big inference of those people who are trained in the West and making sure that the whole system is of high quality and compliant with multiple regulatory agencies.
Yeah, I think your group are the drug developer without boundary, without border. Right. Yeah, I remember actually. I back to 2017, I talked to the Dr. Rui, former Chief Scientist Officer, and I think he shared with me China really adopt the golden standard here from FDA, himself, just like you mentioned, you are the trainer here, and then actually you bring the drug development experience and knowledge, have China, but actually not only have China, this have globally, right? Because it benefit the patients here too. And he mentioned that actually the Chinese FDA hired a group of the FDA senior officer who can speak Chinese.
Yeah, right. So indeed, so Rui is a good friend of mine, and he's the first chief scientific officer. Worked for the NMPA in China, and subsequently the other chief scientific officer in the in the NMPA are also trained and worked at the US FDA for very senior positions. So I think that those people are instrumental to the system, so that the Chinese system is harmonized with the U.S. system. So the quality certainly is very high, and the progress is very, very good, very quickly. So, and then also I think the Chinese government willing to learn from the U.S. System is certainly a very good.
Yeah, from my experience and also observation, actually, Chinese company have been challenging the clinical data from here, or the faster the speed of enroll the patients here, can they become the part of the global clinical trial? So it's kind of like now China's clinical trial have been meet the standard, but even actually Chinese FDA have been more strict requirement when you file the IND, and have more selective rules now.
Well, I guess a lot of it has to do with the trust, right? So it's an ecosystem where the regulatory agencies and the company develop trust to the work that they do. So initially, you have to put into a lot of measures to ensure the work that is done is in compliance with the regulatory requirement. And as I said, it is the process. But once that system matures, then things become easier and easier. Just like anything else, it takes a while for the system to establish, to adopt, to optimize. And I think in last decade or so, things has improved tremendously.
So what's your forecast for the next 5-10 years, the global drug development will look like, how to integrate each of the region together?
I wouldn't say integration. I think integration is difficult, especially in today's geopolitical situation. Yeah, so I think the science will continue to advance, and the way we develop new drugs will always be different because of the advancement, the 4 areas that I mentioned earlier on. And I think the innovation will continue in the US. US is still leading, and China will catch up. There will be new innovations. Actually, one of our drug at Apollomics was completely invented in China, and now we're conduct clinical trial globally. We're seeking FDA approval on the drug. So I think that there will be more Chinese innovations, just because there's a lot of effort being put into with probably tens of thousands of biotech companies in China. There will be more original innovations. That's what we call them. So I think that the China will come, and then there will be more and more those innovations being broadly applied to many countries. It's at the end, it's market driven, right? So US by far is still the largest market. Then it will be entering a different market once the drug is proved to be safe and effective. And so I think that wouldn't stop. Just as you said, there's no boundaries for helping patients, right? So I think that doesn't matter what political situation, economic situation, the patient would need our drugs. So that's it. That's the key. That's important. That's why all the pharmaceutical company, biotech company, we typically would say we're patient-centric, because that's why we exist.
Yeah, disease is our common enemy.
Right. Exactly.
And so we're actually last year we're kind of like a joke, like we found out the science flying from east to west, because in the past decade we did some of the analysis from 2009 to 2019, and in total 10 years, China had 37 drugs out licensed globally outside of China. But from 2019 to 2022, and it was like 37 in just a few years. So actually, we have been seeing last year, Chinese companies have been on the headline, like Kelun and Merck, and so what do you see, like how China can really influence or like impact on the drug development?
Yeah, so as I said, there are innovations in China that can be globally applied, and there has been a lot of more effort put into the innovation. Then it's natural that it will eventually, being either our license or marketed in the Western countries. So the number, I'm not surprised the number will continue to increase, and may actually increase exponentially, just because of the investment was made in the biotech industry, in China. So that certainly will continue, and I think the learning that we have to bridge the clinical data in China, as well as to combine the data with the US data, with Western data, will continue to improve, and the efficiency will be higher and higher. So that's my prediction. And as I said, US will continue to lead, China will catch up, and at which day China will contribute more, it's hard to tell, but it will come someday. Yeah.
We really looking forward to that. All the treatment, all the drug, when it's available to all the patients around the world. It's not by country or region. Hope that they will come. So thank you so much for sharing your 30 years entrepreneurial experience, especially like China and the US. I want to switch the gear here and to like congratulations again for the Apollomics IPO successfully, because I know this kind of not that long time, even the 7 years you co-founded this company, and but I think a very successful, or the biggest success is at this time is because it's a very challenging time, not just globally and the political region. And so could you please share more, like why you decided to IPO at this time?
Yeah, so it's a stage where when a company mature and switching from a private company to a public company, it's a natural process. And then as you said, when it's in challenging time, you need extra wisdom and strong support from many different angles, right? So our company, it just going to be 7 years old soon. So we are very fortunate that our first 2 drugs was able to move into late stage clinical development very quickly, and we're doing that both. One drug we're focusing the China market, and another drug is the global market. And to be able to build the infrastructure to be able to advance the clinical data, where we now see a very confidently very strong data, basically required us to stay in a public company's sector. So when there is a major announcement that came out, we actually would be able to see market response, and therefore give us a chance to raise more capitals and give our investors liquidity, and also enhance our ability to do partnership. So it's a necessary move for a company to grow into that stage. And of course, NASDAQ, it would be the place of choice. That's where all the 600 biotech companies are listed. So we're very lucky and very thankful to all the people who supported and helped to make this happen. And certainly it's a very exciting moment. But to me, it's the beginning of the journey. It's the beginning of, it's kind of a, before was a childhood, how do you become adult, and how do you grow into adult and make the the life more meaningful. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, we always joke like entrepreneur is wild. You can is a cowboy, and then public company CEO, you will be how to say godfather style.
Well, not necessarily. So in the public companies, we're still a little boy, right? There's a giant companies, but people being on the public for dozens of years, many years. So we're just starting a new life, and it will continue, and we'll see our drug being developed, approved, the market cap will increase, and will attract a lot more investors to us, and people will start to know us and cover us. So that's a very different journey from being a private company. So that's as I said, it's a natural process to get there. Just like all the boys will grow up, right?
That's true. And so actually you had a chance, I think you had multiple options like listed in Shanghai and Hong Kong. So could you please share some like pros and cons of listed in the different region?
Yeah, so I think that partly is depend on where your company's product is serving. So our drug, the number one drug is a c-Met inhibitor, which is serving mainly the US market and globally. So I think that's important. And the two is NASDAQ is still the main market for biotech industry. You simply get more chance to find the corporate partners, commercial partners, and also because of the history and the sheer size of the market, the market is bigger. So in other words, you get much more leeway when you need to raise another round, and you need talk to the mainstream people. So I think that NASDAQ will be a better choice. Hong Kong market, the Shanghai market is more regional. I think that primarily if your product is marketed in China, that's probably will be a good choice. Some people argue, those markets may give you a better valuation, but the valuation is just it's just a number, right? Yeah. No, not only that, it has to do with what is your capability to raise subsequent money, because going IPO is about raising capital in the public market. So I think in terms of long term and bigger in size, NASDAQ would be a better choice for us.
I think I cannot agree more. Like especially you mentioned the NASDAQ is for the commercial partner or the global. If you position yourself as a global company, I think the NASDAQ is the way you go, and also to build your reputation and globally. Because I always received the question from like a biotech company executives here, ask her, "Oh, what's this company?" Actually, it's like a top 1 or 2 company in China, but they never heard. Echo, can you do the due diligence for us about this company?
Yeah. And China market is very different from the US market. So I think people want to see something that is mature and something they can understand how the market evolve and what are the patient dynamics and everything. Yeah.
So the last question about the IPO is why SPAC?
Well, so as you know, the NASDAQ IPO window has been shut for a couple of years. So there's really, even the underwriters are not taking cases. In a good day, it's a good time we're fully qualified for a regular IPO. But I think the window is shut, and as I mentioned, we are quite eager to get the company listed. So SPAC is one way of doing it. And unfortunately, SPAC has also changed over the time. Before there is a significant amount of cash remained in the SPAC when you're doing that business combination. And nowadays, I think it's the same thing because of the overall broader market. So the redemption rate has been extremely high. So basically, all the cash in the SPAC will be pulled away. Other than that, there's no difference between SPAC and the regular IPO. It's just a way to get the company listed.
But let's make it more safe to say they become more like a certainty, right?
Well, some people say that it's easier. It's actually not necessarily. It's you still have to file and get compliances from SEC regulatory agency, and you still have to raise money. So before, you don't need to do a roadshow to raise money, and we did a PIPE as well along the way. So to me, it's almost identical to a regular IPO.
Yeah. So you have 2 successful lists already, like the PIPE. I think a lot of companies cannot raise money, and you successfully raise the PIPE. And the second and the first day, the stock price going to almost $30. I think
49.
40, yeah, $49. What exciting!
Yeah, no, I actually don't pay what's not pay attention, but I don't think we should overread that. It's a lot of speculating people on the market. I think at the end, it's the fundamental that matters. So to me, we're just focusing on the drug. Once our drug get approved, market will know how much the company should be evaluated. So I think, as I said, we're just this little boy just enter the stadium, to meet with other players, and we're not there yet. We're very beginning. So I think the stock price it's a very volatile, and it will go up and it will go down. So certainly not the time to comment on that yet.
I think all the things you wrote from your book are kind of like build today you are, and be prepared to have such a roller coaster.
It's a life, right? So I think it's all about how do you manage your life. I think all our lives are very similar. We have a goal. We have the wish to be happy, to stay young, all those things. Same thing with the company. We have a goal to address. We're in cancer field, so basically we're trying to treat difficult to treat cancer, and as well as cancer that are resistant to other treatment, and that is our mission, and all our pipeline is targeting that. So we're just gonna work on with one drug, second drug, third drug, just keep going to make sure that we are able to deliver the drug for the patients. That's what we need to focus on.
Oh yeah. So thank you so much for sharing the IPO insight. I think it's not only about your success, but also about your opinion about different. I think that the audience definitely will benefit from that. For the last few minutes, actually, I really wanted you to give more the insight about the book and your experiment, because I read the book, actually, I cannot wait to do the gene test to understand myself. And also during your talk, you have been mentioned several times how to, actually gene is so important for us to have the treatment for the patient, but also how to take care of ourselves.
Right. Yeah. So as you know, we have 2 sets of genes, one from our father, one from our mother, and most of our many things is determined by the gene, right? But then of course we cannot change our genes. So what we can do is to change our lifestyles. This is where management of your own health comes in. So in this book, I'm trying to give examples, and I use myself as examples to say, okay, well, if you want to stay young, you can stay young, and there's certain things you can do, and there's also measurement to determine what you can do, right? So the first chapter talk about my own experiment. I said, well, if I want to change myself to revert my physiological age by 20 years, I can achieve that by conduct certain experiment, and everybody can do the same thing. So life is something that we need to manage and need to plan and have milestones. Assuming we're all going to live, over 100 years, and it is your own, mental power and your practice into those goals that you're setting determines whether you're happy, whether you're healthy, whether you stay younger, and whether you achieve your goals. It's actually very similar. I draw analogy from running a company.
That's what you mentioned yesterday. It's like a CEO, you have indications, you achieve it.
Right. It's I think that once you have a goal, you can try to achieve it. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to use a kind of layman's language to describe how personally, as an individual, you can do that. And I cited probably many examples in the book about the different people that I work with, encountered, and give them advice. And some follow very strictly on the principles, and some probably are quite loose about it. So I think hopefully everybody will have fun reading them, and also put some of the principles into practice in their day-to-day life. So that's what I was.
Yeah, you personally proved this works because your indication showed that you're 20 years younger, right? Is the scale proved that.
Right. Yeah, there's an instrument you can measure them. Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot wait for try it, and I have been trying for so long, not just because to lose weight, but it's really.
Yeah, no, just I think it's overall overall feeling, and I sleep better. I don't get anxious. When certain crisis happens, I just do things very calmly and methodically, and every parameter of it make you kind of feel good if you start to follow those principles.
Yeah, actually, from the book you mentioned that you genetically easily get anxious. Right?
Yeah, so actually, I don't always have all the good genes. I have diabetes genes. My cardiovascular system is not very good. I have hypertension since I was 40. All those
Is that all like lower now, the indications? Now, do you still need to take a medicine?
Well, I do take medicine. So yeah, this is why we're in the industry. Medicine is also important. But I think that knowing yourself is the first step, right? Mm-hmm. So know what kind of disease you're prone to because of your genetic background. Then try to observe whether you have onset, when is your disease started. At the end of the day, if we could push back the major disease by 20 years, we'll be much happier, much younger, much healthier, everything. So just think there's one goal, that is everybody will die, right? They will die of a major disease. And if you know what that is, if you can push that back by 20 years, that's your goal.
We win.
Yeah, right.
Thank you you so much.
All right.
Okay. You were such insightful, and also all the I say the $1 billion experience. Yeah. Most important that keep us younger 20 years.
All right. Great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. 好，正好要。